Hello, everyone. My name is Ohiro Oni-Eseleh. I should actually start by saying Happy New Year to everyone because this is the first time that we are actually going to be having a conversation this year, and it's early in the year yet. And I hope that this year is actually really great for everyone. I know that last year was somewhat challenging for a lot of people, and I think for our entire world. And there is actually a funny meme that I saw. Someone said, I will not count 2020 when I think of my age because I did not use the year. So, but we hope that this year 2021 is one that we can all say that we used because it's my hope and I'd like to say my expectation as well that it's going to be great for all of us. Today, I have a distinct pleasure of hosting some very special people. And we are going to be talking about behavior analysis, but at what I consider to be a really, really high level. My guests today are four wonderful people who I should actually introduce now. Uh, the first one that I'd like to introduce is Ms. Hollie Benincosa, who is the Executive Director of the Qualified Applied Behaviour Analysis Credentialing Board. And she's based in Utah, right? Holly,
Yes.
she's based in Utah here in the United States. And I'm really grateful to have you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Right. And then we also have here Dr. Usifo Edward Asikhia, who is actually the clinical director of, you're going to help me here, Dr. Asikhia. You are the clinical director of the International Training Center for Applied Behavior Analysis in Lagos, Nigeria. But
Yes.
you're joining us from here in the United States, and I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Dr. Hero.
Right. And then we also have Mrs. Bosede Asikhia, who is the president of the Association of Behavior Analysis in Nigeria. And she's also here with us in the United States today, and I'm happy to have you.
Thank you, Professor Seleh, for having us, for taking out time from your very tight schedule. It's a
Thank you.
pleasure.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to do this because it's really a contribution to the plight of humankind to make sure that it's better, which is what you all do. And next we have Mr. Segun Fatuase, who is actually a media consultant in Nigeria. He's a journalist after many years of working as editor at Punch of Nigeria, which is one of Nigeria's biggest newspapers. Now he is the editor of Newsturf, which is a news outfit based in Lagos, Nigeria. And Mr. Fatwash is joining us from Lagos, Nigeria. So good afternoon. It's good evening over there, right?
It's good evening from Nigeria.
Right.
So
It's
good evening, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks for taking the time to join us here. How is the weather in Nigeria today?
The weather is very cool.
Great. So thank you. Thanks for joining us. Ms.
Very
Benincosa, you are from the Qualified Applied Behavior Analysis Credentialing Board, where you're the executive director. And I know that when the organization was started, your mission was stated as follows: that it was to establish the highest standards of care and empower all professionals who provide behavioral intervention services to individuals with autism spectrum disorders.
Yes. Yes, we do have a focus in autism, but we are behavior analysts first. So we do most of our competency and coursework is applied behavior analysis, and we do have requirements for autism spectrum disorder and other disabilities.
Right. So can you tell us, well, I will roll two questions into one. Number one, who is an applied behavior analyst?
So we actually have three 3 tiers. So you have an entry level, a mid-level supervisor, and then also a master's level supervisor. So that master's level supervisor is the behavior analyst. And they're the ones who perform assessments on individuals who have been diagnosed with autism. And they perform those assessments to create behavior intervention plans, IEPs, which is for schools. And then they have the mid-level supervisor and the entry-level credential technician go ahead and put those behavior plans into action.
Oh, thank you. You know, I said I had 2 questions rolled in one. I think that you just went into the other question that I was going to ask, which was, what are the levels of credentialing? Because I'm sure there are multiple levels of credentialing.
Sure.
Yes, and I think you began to answer that.
Did you want me to expand on that?
Yeah, just a little more, yes.
Sure. So as I mentioned, the QBA, this is the Qualified Behavior Analyst. This is our master's level certificate. And these are for those who have been in the field for a while. It is parallel to the BCBA. And it actually was internationally accredited by ANSI in December of last year. So we're really excited for that. And then you have the QASPS, which is the Qualified Autism Services Practitioner Supervisor, or the QASPS, or QASP, a lot of people will say. And this is our mid-level supervisor for people who have been in the field for a little bit. They have a bachelor's degree and they want to become a supervisor and grow into that supervisor role. And they can help QBAs reach that 5% supervision, which is really important because otherwise all that burden is on that master's level professional. Then you have the ABAT, which is the Applied Behaviour Analysis Technician. And this is for entry-level people who are interested in getting into the field. And they just need a high school degree or equivalent. They need 40 hours of coursework and 15 hours of field work. And, you know, as long as they have a supervisor, then they can go ahead and become an ABAT. And they're the ones who mostly have the one-to-one direct services with the clients.
Wow, thank you for explaining all of that. And I think that in particular, I am pleased that one of the things that you try to do is to make sure that people who do the kind of work that many people do, even at levels that we consider low in society, are professionals. So you have really gone about professionalizing this work, which is a great thing. I know that you mentioned NC, because NC also, I think, accredits you. NC is, I think, the American National Standards Institute.
Yes.
You know, but just listening to you, and I am thinking about the about the Association of Behavior Analysis in Nigeria. So I'm coming to you, Bosede Asikhia. It seems to me that the question that I should ask you is, how did you all get together?
Thank you very much for that question. Applied behavior analysis is a profession that is so huge, so wide, so diverse, so beneficial, yet no one knows how beneficial this profession is. We went over to Nigeria and we discovered a huge gap in service provision. We went around the agencies and the institution, the schools, and we felt the need for us to start something, transfer this wonderful technology back to Nigeria. And so ABAN was established for the purpose of promoting research as well as competent practices in Nigeria.
Right. So, Dr. Asikhia, you're the clinical director of ABAN. How do you go about fulfilling that mission of promoting research and competent practice in applied behavior analysis in Nigeria?
Just a little correction. Mrs. Bosede Asikhia is the president. I'm the clinical director of International Training Center for Applied Behaviour Analysis.
Right.
And I wanted to just move on quickly. How did we start about this? I remember in 2011, we started with autism conference in Ghana, along with global autism. And during that period, a number of organizations came from West African countries for that conference. And during the conference, we noticed a huge gap, capacity building gap, like Bosede has said, in Africa, particularly West African countries that congregated in that place. In 2011, we started a training program on a certificate training program, just basic one on autism in West Africa. We sent that in Nigeria. And 2012, I met with the program director of BACB in Seattle and discussed with him on the need for us to have an approved training program in Nigeria. And with his guidance in 2013, BACB approved our training school. That's International Training Center for Applied Behaviour Analysis. And 2014, we started the RBT, which is equivalent to ABA Tech with the QABA. That was the beginning. They also approved for us a ABA graduate training program for Africa. And we were still on that. And you may ask me what my motivation was then with what we were doing. As I mentioned before, we need capacity building in Africa as a whole, and we need culturally sensitive policies and services for Africans. We need a coherent and independent African countries, and we also need fair negotiation with other countries by African countries. These are some of those motivations that led us to start International Training Center for Applied Behaviour Analysis to make for the shortfall in African countries.
Right. So, Hollie, I will come back to you, but first I want to go to Mr. Fatuase. And but before I come back to you, I just want to give you a question to just sit with. And that question that I'm coming to ask you is, well, two questions. One, how you found out about ABAN, and that is the institute, the Association in Nigeria, and also ITC. And because I have Africans here talking about the work that they are doing in Africa, so I am interested in knowing what your organization is doing as the credentialing organization to support that work, especially in light of the fact that I just read, in preparing for this, I just read that countries except Canada and the United States are going to be excluded from credentialing coverage. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I just would like to know where you go from there with your work. So so please sit with that and I'll come back to you for the response. In the meantime, I'd like to go to Mr. Fatuase and ask, there has been a mention here of culture and cultural sensitivity. And that is a society where autism really, I'm not sure what it's like now, but I was also born there and autism was not a discussion. And I'm not sure what it's like now. So my question to you is, you are there on the ground, Mr. Fatuase. How much is known about autism and how much is discussed within that cultural space that is Nigeria?
Thank you very much. I think I will just start by just saying that it's quite regrettable that there's so much misconception. There are cultural issues concerning autism And even they practice the science of applied behavior analysis that is in Nigeria. Autism basically is seen as a disease in this part of the world, that is in Nigeria. And autistic children, let me just start with children. Autistic children are seen as abnormal children. So there's that cultural issue about you not really understanding what something is, and then you put a kind of stigma on it. In this part of the world, that is Nigeria, and I think Nigeria in particular, Africa generally, autism is seen as an abnormal thing. So the practice or the science of applied behavior analysis is supposed to put a kind of enlightenment. It focuses the mind and teach people this idea that there are some things that could really be rectified. There are some situations that could be rectified. We have seen autistic children who cannot really fit into a system, into the school system there. And then the absence, relative absence of special schools to take care of autistic children has only made things worse. So we see them, regrettably again, I need to say, as people special, in quotes, people who need attention, but they are not really getting it due to ignorance, misconception, and some cultural ideas that are just not in tune with current reality.
Right. I am glad that you went there, because it means then that as president of ABAN, Mrs. Asikhia has a lot of work to do. So I am going to be asking you how you expect to do all of that work, how you're doing it. But so Ms. Benincosa, you have that question that I left on your desk. So.
Sure. So I actually met Dr. Ed through a previous coworker. They had been in conversation, and I know that Dr. Ed had actually decided to apply to become a coursework provider for QABA. And I met Mrs. Asikhia via our International Standards Committee. So QABA, we've developed this International Standards Committee where we have professionals in the field from all over the world. And they basically are liaisons to tell us, how are we going to overcome some of these obstacles? You know, what's going on in this area? Because as you know, they're our ears to the ground, right? So that's how I met them. Dr. Ed, I don't know if you have any more information of the beginning of the relationship or anything.
Oh, yeah, that is it. That's it.
So now, where does Africa stand, and everyone in Africa who may want to become an ABA? Oh, yes. So where does Africa stand now in light of the new policy about credentialing?
I cannot tell you how much I love people from Africa coming and contacting us, wanting more information on how they can be providers, how they can work with these children and adults. It's incredible. We have had a very high increase in, especially Nigeria. We've had a lot of interest, you know, in the process of how do we get credentialed. And from there, we've become partners with many providers who are some of the best in the world. And, you know, they have become coursework providers. So they are able to teach that coursework to their staff and to others who are interested in the field. And I'll tell you what, their passage rate, I would say, is at least 80 to 90%. They do extremely well on the exam. So another thing that we are working on is we have exams that are being translated or have been translated, and they're in the process of being launched. So we have Arabic, we have Spanish, we have Portuguese, and we are working on French and soon Mandarin as well, Italian. So, you know, where we see the need, we're going to fill that need. And so I think one of the main things that we need help with is, you know, outreach, basically helping people understand autism, understanding how ABA can help, and, you know, how can we connect with those in remote areas that need these services. So
Right. So thank you very much. So Mr. Fatuase, that's again where you come in. How can you, this is your website, because I wanted everyone to see it so they can
yes.
go there and seek
Oh,
information.
oh,
So,
thank you.
right. So Mr. Fatuase, the question is for you then. How do you get this word out to people in
Um,
places like Nigeria? How can you? I would like you to connect, for example, with Mrs. Asikhia to do this work. How can you do that to get this word to the various places in Nigeria, for example?
yeah, basically, let me just put it as a professional that it's not much of a challenge, but then a lot of weight will have to be put on the agents there, the people we're talking to there, at least as a starting point, that there is an urgent need. It's really urgent now because of the misconception. There's really an urgent need to highlight the activities of behavioral analysis. Let us really know what this science is about. Let us know what these analysts are really doing on ground. And then through regular promotional write-ups, we can enlighten the generality of people. And then the way and manner they practice can enhance and contribute to the well-being of the society. These are things that we need to highlight through regular reports, coverage of events, talking about these issues just in the way that the ordinary man will understand it. There are so many families with autistic children, but for one reason or the other, because of ignorance, the lack of knowledge about what this thing is about and how to go about it, nobody's really doing much about it. So for me, I think I want to get involved in the area of publicity. And I think there's really a crowd over here of journalists, reporters, who really want to be educated on one level about what ABA is all about and how to now transmit this kind of messages to people out there. There's a need, there's really an urgent need for this kind of publicity. I have on my own, on a personal level, I'm doing some write-ups on this. And even this podcast is part of the assignment I gave myself. Being educated about it and educating people about it, spreading this kind of enlightenment, there will need to be this awareness. So this is just like work in progress, if I can put it that way.
Right. I am glad that you're right here with Mrs. Asikhia. So, Mrs. Asikhia, if I wanted, for example, to be associated with the organization, not in the same way that the journalist wants to, I know that there are some membership categories. How does one qualify to become a member of the Association of Behavior Analysis in Nigeria?
Yeah, thank you so much. Before I go into that, I would like to commend QABA for bringing us in, for listening to us in policy development regarding what we want, what is happening there in Nigeria. What are the things that are applicable, that are unique to the country? They did not stop at that. They also look into consideration the financial constraint with regard to the developing countries. And they gave discount that will enable more people to afford the certification exam. I think that's a laudable effort on the part of QABA. And from time to time, whatever policy they want to establish, they normally bring us together under that committee, the standard committee, to discuss, share ideas, our inputs. I really, really commend that. So thank you so much, and take it to the board.
Thank you.
Before I also talk about the membership requirements, I would like to also talk more on the mission of ABAN. First, let me talk about applied behavior analysis so that people will actually know what we're talking about. Applied behavior analysis is not a pseudoscience. It is scientifically based. It is evidence-based. It focuses mainly on the skills that are lacking, the skills that are limited, the skills that are there, but because the environment failed to focus on the potential of that individual, they disable those children, those individuals the more. So we are looking at those skills that we need to develop in order for us to reduce the problem behavior that are impacting on the inclusion of these children. So you can see that that aspect is very critical when we talk about intervention, implementation of strategies for individuals with autism and other developmental disability. We have traditional way of implementing all these programs for the children with autism previously. And so applied behavior analysis is not just doing it alone, it's collaborating. There's a lot of teamwork. Teamwork is very critical. Relationship, when it comes to applied behavior analysis, is very, very critical. There's not much emphasis on diagnosis. The reason being that if a child is unable to do something, no matter the label, the diagnosis you put on it, there's no way forward. So the critical emphasis is on implementation, intervention, how best to help that child to develop those skills that are lacking. And that's why the emphasis is really on that. And when we look at the problem behavior, what do we put in place to reduce the problem behavior? And under ABA, we are focusing on the behavior does not just occur without a reason. There must be a purpose. If I start coughing right now, there's a reason why I'm coughing. If I'm screaming, I'm not just screaming for the fun of it. I'm screaming because of a reason. So ABA is emphasizing the fact that we must identify the functions and the maintaining variables or factors that are impacting or triggering the behavior. And that tells you how beneficial ABA program is to the management of individuals with autism and other developmental disability. I want to talk about this promotion of research. We know that research will produce knowledge that are applicable, knowledge that will enable you not to harm the consumers. And that's why ABA is putting much emphasis on research, and ABA is also putting emphasis on research work. We are promoting competency through education, training, conferences, workshops, and CEU. I will emphasize that CEU. I know that most people with credential in Nigeria, once they have the credential, it remains like that. They don't service it. No, they're not current. Meanwhile, we are dealing with human beings. This is not McDonald's. We are dealing with lives. I call applied behavior analysis services alternative medicine. The reason being that we are using strategies to treat, to manage the individuals with autism and other developmental disability. And so competency building and practice is very, very critical to ensure that the right thing is done, to ensure that we reduce harm to our consumers. I want to talk about globalization. Emphasis on globalization of ABA. The reason being that ABA has been proven to be effective in managing the individual with autism and other developmental disabilities. I'm adding other developmental disabilities because the characteristics of autism is a spread. It also reflects in the presentation of those individuals with other developmental disability. So when you have that skill, the ability to manage the individual with autism, you will be able to manage that individual with other developmental disability with additional training. I want to talk about these benefits when it comes to education. When we incorporate ABA into our schools, obviously it will improve learning outcomes for these students. The reason being that these children are not being carried along. The teachers, the management, they need to understand what to be done in the classroom for these children, how to manage them. And that's why the emphasis is there. Because without incorporating those skills that will help to develop or build those skills that these children are struggling with or they don't have, it will be difficult to move these children from point A to point B. I want to also talk about this globalization. I'm emphasizing we are promoting awareness to our universities in Nigeria for them to see the benefit of incorporating this course or the program, ABA, into their school program. The reason being that majority of our parents, they are spending so much, it's not easy, it's so expensive to actually have an effective intervention for these children. And so we need more hands. We need people that are competent to actually provide services for these children. So if we're able to spread it to the university, we're going to have more competent hands to provide services for these children. The financial involvement of traveling abroad, traveling to all over the world with the hope of getting appropriate services for their children will be reduced. Apart from that, we know that when you move a child outside the comfort zone to another country, there is mismatch, there's culture crash, there's conflicts. You take the child and you spend so much on assessment and whatever, you are bringing the child back to the comfort zone. There's already misplacement, there's mismatch. And so the money and everything is not sustained. So ABAN is looking at a way to really promote more hands through awareness about how they can go about it in university. We are providing necessary information to them. We are looking at ABAN in terms of raising awareness, which we have been doing. All our students that we have trained, they are all out every time, April. They have programs on autism. They're in the streets. They're in the government office. They're in the church. Raising awareness about the usefulness of applied behavior analysis. And that is the area of raising awareness. The awareness, we are not stopping there. We are raising awareness about the incidences, the prevalences, and characteristics of autism. And also to let them know how to assess effective treatment for children with autism. ABAN is protecting the rights and interests of the individual with developmental disability in areas of abuse, bullying at school, and also judiciary. Most of the time at the courts, the presentation of the individual with developmental disability is misinterpreted because they don't understand. So we are looking at a way of raising awareness about those composition, the characteristics, and supporting them, advocating for them when it comes to court issues. We're also looking at insurance coverage. Most of the time, they are excluded from so many things. The system, The government, they are saying it as a tax that is impossible. We want to make it possible. We want them to see that this area is possible to invest on it. And it's necessary for them to do that.
Right.
When we talk, okay, sorry.
Oh,
Do I go on?
Oh, that's okay. So, Ms. Ms. Benincosa, I am going to come to you because we've had discussions about skills development. And so I would like to ask you, from where you stand at QABA, what have you seen in terms of what the credentialing does for labor mobility for people who have that credential? And also in your relationship with Africa, what are the barriers that you have encountered in addressing some of the problems relating to the education, the labor mobility, and everything else, even the social issues?
Sure. So as I mentioned before, we've worked with some of the most incredible providers worldwide, including in Nigeria. And I think it's through these partnerships that we can help develop the field of ABA. It is so important because, as you know, Africa is the second largest, most populated continent. And that means that there's more individuals with autism. You know, it's just, that's the way it is. It's, you know, with more people comes more chances. So in order to, you know, help spread this awareness, I think having that certification proves that you have those skills, you have that competency, you know, and so I think it proves quality assurance for employers, for parents to realize that these people who are credentialed through QABA have that knowledge and they can trust in them more because they will see a difference. They will see a difference once ABA is applied. They absolutely will. And so I think the fact that we need to provide access to more remote areas is very important. And so having, you know, things like this podcast, marketing, you know, articles, things like that to create that awareness is going to be so important. And QABA, what I love is that we offer remote proctoring. And so people don't have to travel to a different country, a different continent even, to take their exam. They can take it at home or in the office. As long as they can be by themselves, they have reliable internet, they can take it wherever and whenever. Our exams are available 24/7, and this helps reach those remote areas. And as Mrs. Asikhia mentioned, we do offer a cost adjustment for developing countries. And I think this is so important because, you know, not everybody's going to make the same amount of money. Not everybody's going to be able to afford the same thing in these different areas. And so I think that it makes it more attainable. And I think it's so important. So.
All right, thank you. So Dr. Ed, when you were speaking before, you talked about the difficulties with capacity building in Nigeria. So I am sure that it's not just a Nigerian problem. It will also be a problem with countries that are still developing, just to take the word that Ms. Benincosa just used. So my question for you is that in Nigeria, for example, I know that you don't want to speak for the Association of Behavior Analysis of Nigeria, but also in your work, two questions. Number one, what is the downside of that lack of capacity? And the second question is, do you have any government support for the work that you're doing?
That's a good question. Well, first and foremost, there is no funding from anywhere. All the activities we have an International Training Center for Applied Behaviour Analysis as a bank done is from just a private agency, no grant, no nothing from the government. That's number one. Let me quickly rush to the downside. First and foremost, nature doesn't allow a vacuum to exist. So in the absence of competent professionals in Nigeria and Africa. There will continue to be emergence of pseudoscience-based therapies. What do I mean? In Africa, you have tradomedicalism. You also have, with due respect to pastors, you have evangelical intervention, which have the potential of physical abuse, sexual abuse, among others. Now, the difficulties with early clinical and functional diagnosis put these people at risk of collusion with the law. And then it might lead to arrest, trial, and imprisonment instead of appropriate treatment. That's just the downside of the major problem. If we cannot globalize ABA, if we cannot transfer the technology, you cannot ensure competent professional practice in Nigeria and Africa, it becomes a big problem. That is downside.
Wow.
Then can I chip in a little bit again? Because when Bosede was talking, she mentioned something about globalization. I think it's very important. Why are we so worried about that? I want to put it in summarized form. We want to promote competent professional practice in line with the Credentialing Board's requirement and ethical requirement. We want to facilitate cost-effective service delivery in Nigeria and Africa. We want to increase the availability of professionals that are managing individuals with development disabilities in African community and Nigeria. We also want to reduce the incidence of human rights violation and prevent the abuse of children with developmental disabilities, reported or not reported. We want to increase awareness, early diagnosis of these children, because it's very important. Early diagnosis leads to most of the time positive treatment outcomes. And we also want to increase enrollment in the schools, that's inclusion in educational setting for these children or persons. Now, we also want to empower teachers and parents through globalization. We want to support government of African nations and promote community integration and social acceptance in the society of Nigeria and Africa as a whole. And we want to promote early referral of pupils and persons that need assessment, very important. And we want to facilitate appropriate school placement of pupils that are in need of special education. We want to also enhance implementation of behavior plans and IEP, which is very crucial to the management of these children. And we want to promote practice and enhance adequate data collection. Bosede said it, because ABA is data-based, is evidence-based. If you're not trained, you don't have benefit from that technology that is being overseen by the Credentialing body, you cannot collect data. You cannot make informed decisions regarding education management and even treatment decisions regarding the therapies of these children. We want to create opportunities for career pathway for trainees as part of that, and we want to promote total quality of life services for individuals with developmental disabilities in Africa. This is huge, very, very huge, right away. So these are some of those things. And what have we done? Let me just move on quick. International Training Center for Applied Behaviour Analysis have actually imparted Nigeria and to some extent Africa within the limit of its capacity. We've trained well over 300 persons in applied behavior analysis. Some could not write the credentialing examination through the BACB because we don't have test center in Africa. Thank God we have QABA board that now have remote proctoring. So among these 300 people, that's on the conservative, we train basic certificate, autism certificate training. We've done that. We have trained RBT, registered behavior technicians. We train ABA technicians. We train board certified assistant behavior analyst. We train QASP, we have trained QBA, and we have ended up forming ABAN as well, because the product, in the course of our capacity building, they now are now able to come together to form ABAN, because you cannot carry a number of people that are not trained, say, come, let us form an association regarding ABA without having understanding of what ABA is all about. And ABAN right now, I'm not trying to take words away from Bosede Asikhia. We are affiliated with the world body, we call ABAI, Association for Behavior Analysis International, and we are also with the QBA board. And above all, International Training Center is also an academic institution partner with African Virtual University. We really need to reach out there. So that is what we have done. Mentioning some of the constraints, which you asked Hollie, you look at the situation in Africa and Nigeria. World Health Organization says that developmental disability is a pandemic situation in Africa as of date. The reason because they are under-recognized, they are underappreciated, and they are under-resourced. That's one main constraint. Two, we have disorganization and failure of leadership in African countries. That is the reality. We have institutional failure and lack of support. But I just told you about how we try to collaborate with some of the higher institutions in Africa, not just Nigeria. It's been a big problem because they have no idea about what applied behavior analysis is all about. We also have lack of money, funding, which the moderator has just asked, with lack of materials, time factors is an issue, lack of efficient and effective energy, and lack of effective government and political will. That is that. On the international level, I've said that again, we don't have test center apart from what QABA board has given to countries in Africa as a whole, not Nigeria. There is also inadequate representation of African countries in ABA Credentialing Board, except QABA board. And also in ABAI, that's the Association for International Behavior Analysis International, Africans are not represented in the board in any. So they are not part of policy making. And most recently, like we said, exclusion of African countries from BACB, not QBA, BACB, along with other developing countries. It's a big issue. Now, they gave us the latitude to train, which is okay. I had a lot of support from the Director of the International Program, Dr. Neil Martins. But when you train them, like I said before, we train more than 500. You train them, they don't have a place to write the exam. The money they will require to fly from Africa to Dubai or England or US is more than the school fees for their training. Talk less of the stress. Some of them that have actually tried to go out to Dubai to write exam. That exam, which is international, they are not writing it under the same examination temperature and pressure with their colleagues all over the world. The stress of getting a visa, the stress of getting money to fly, the stress of immigration harassment at the border, the stress of getting hotel. And I know we sent a group of people out. They went down, they were delayed. Eventually, they got down to their destination just in the evening of the next day, and the exam was next day. They got there by 9 p.m. and the exam was supposed to be 9 a.m. Then everything they had read have gone. Then do you expect them to pass? No. Then when they fail, then they say, maybe technically I use a bad word, Africa, they are shithole. They don't know anything. Not okay. It's painful. People are suffering. And there are huge number of people in Africa that need positive touch in this direction. Things are made so difficult. Then maybe I'll wait for the next question. I would like to actually share with you later.
Right. We are going to be rounding up in just a few minutes, so you may
Fine.
want to go straight.
Yeah, let me go straight. Now, let me give you I just want to share a review with you of the current records of credentialed ABA professionals in Africa. With you. I have it on paper here. Now, let me just, what I have here, I know, so sorry, Ohiro. Yeah. If we look at the population of the world as of today, it's about, let me just say 0.2 billion. Africa is 0.03 billion. Then let's get to West Africa, is 3.4 million. Okay, that is that. But now, if you look at the projected number of people that are laboring under the yoke of developmental disabilities, in Nigeria is 0.66 million. In Ghana is 0.087 million. In Togo is 0.02 million. In Cote d'Ivoire is 0.08 million. Those are the people laboring under the yoke of developmental disabilities. Now, if you look at the number of qualified people to take care of this on a global note, in Algeria, for example, we have the total, if I say total number of credentialed professionals, both ROBT, BCABA, BCBA, BCBAD, ABA Tech, QASP, QB, and another is 1 in Algeria. In Botswana is 1. In Egypt, 11. In Malta is 3. In Ghana is 1. In Portugal is 7. In South Africa is 4. In Togo, you have, 2. In Nigeria, you have 54. And in Senegal, you have 1. In Kenya, you have 4. In Cote d'Ivoire, you have 1. In Rwanda, you have 1. Total in the entire Africa, as per the record at my disposal, 91, compared with the total population of billion of children that are laboring under the yoke of developmental disability.
Okay, Mr. Fatuase, you know, I'm a big believer in influencing policy because I think that that's one of the ways to get change to happen. My question is, as a journalist, how do you influence policy in Nigeria on matters like this? Because that's one way that change can happen.
Influencing policy.
Yeah.
We have to go through some channels. Creating awareness is one. Lobbying the relevant stakeholders, including government or particularly government, and NGOs focus on issues like this is another way. Right. And lobbying government, like I said, it's not an easy task. You have to involve virtually every organization involved in the process. So it won't look as if you are putting something across without the professional backup of those who are going to, at the end of the day, implement whatever policy government approves. Convincing government that there's really an issue on ground remains the challenge. Autism is part of what, from my own view, is part of what they have just put aside as things to be considered later. Something you could keep in view. It's a KIV situation. Government can claim that it is aware of an issue like this, but then you still need the stakeholders to push a case, to push the matter. So one, the awareness of it, enlightenment, even of government officials, relevant government officials in the health ministry, in the education sector. All those ones, there are things to be done. But basically, we start with creating awareness. so that it won't be a lone voice crying in the wilderness.
Thank you very much. So, Mrs. Asikhia, I'll go to you for your final words. And I would like you to address two things. Number one, what do you think that your association, the Association for Behavior Analysis in Nigeria, can do as far as leaning on those channels that Mr. Fatuase talked about to influence policy? That's one. And the second thing, just to wrap around your final comments, is do you have any activities planned for this year that we should be looking forward to?
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, what we are trying to do through supervision and the training, we try to educate our students how to reach out to governments, the kind of programs that they should put in place to be able to capture the interests of the stakeholders out there. We look at the church as one of our avenue of raising awareness. We look at the universities, the hospitals, the governmental agencies, as well as the politicians. So we are actually raising awareness using our competent, trained personnel to move into their various areas. We are actually using them to also spread out to the villages. Instead of all of them just stay in the city, we are putting in place what we call there's a program whereby they can always consult with us. We are giving them the mandate to go out and start agency, and we are supporting them in terms of consultancy services and all that. We're motivating them, we're encouraging them. With that, if we plant that, then we'll be able to fight as a body to reach out to the government. We will have more outlets, more channels to be able to make this push, and be a voice for the individuals with developmental disability. The other area is that we are starting right now with a virtual conference in April. We want to use that to actually push in the mission of ABAN in Nigeria. We want to use that to reach those areas, those individuals, those governmental bodies when we do this conference. And the theme of that the conference is globalization and capacity building of applied behavior analysis in Nigeria, in Africa as a whole.
Well, thank you.
So on this note, I want to talk to parents. I want to reach out to our parents. First of all, I know they are overwhelmed, they are challenged with overwhelming information. They are confused. I want them to, first of all, focus on training, education. Even if you spend a lot on the treatments, if you don't have the knowledge, you can achieve 20 to 40% of success. Because under ABA, there's supposed to be continuity of services. And if you are not equipped, you don't even know what the therapists are doing. So we are encouraging parents, please get trained. We don't mind giving discount to those of you that cannot afford it, and give scholarship also to those of you. Parents, please, you start with educating yourself. So that is my piece of information and advice to parents.
Thank you very much. Dr. Ed, your final comment, because I like to go to the big one for the real final comment, and I will be Ms. Benincosa.
Okay.
So for you, your final comments before I go to her.
Okay. My final word is this. There is urgent need for ABA in Nigeria and Africa. These include capacity building. We have been talking about through transfer and replication of ABA technology in Africa. We need examination center for credentialing of our professionals. We need functional legislation and policy in Nigeria and African countries. We need reliable energy supply. We need reliable and effective communication system. We need increased awareness and advocacy, as said by Bosede. Finally, we need subsidized funding for services for children with autism and other developmental disabilities in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Fatuase, your final comments.
Well, there's a lot of work to do. The awareness, creating the initiative that will involve virtually every stakeholder, working on the lawmakers to make even this issue as part of their constituency project, believe it or not. Developing the child, developing human beings should be part of their constituency project, instead of them sending motorcycles or whatever to the various villages. Talk about how to develop the average child. Like I said before, the average family, if you take like 3, you will see one child with this kind of challenge. But because of ignorance and a lot of misconceptions, people just bury issues like this. So we need to create the awareness before we can now move on to this policy building drive. It is a task, but it can be done.
Oh, thank you very much. So, Ms. Benincosa, I want in your final comments for you to give us hope. In this era of COVID-19, I can imagine that if these challenges that have been discussed exist, and we know that they do, that tackling them has become even more compounded by, by the era that we are in. Those problems have become more compounded, and dealing with them has become a little more difficult. So I'd like for you to give us some hope, and also to tell us, first of all, what challenges have been produced by COVID-19. And then in the end, just give us some hope as your final words.
Absolutely. So with the COVID-19, quite honestly, we haven't had many interruptions. And I think the reason why is because we already have remote proctoring in place. We already are virtual exams. We have online applications that are quite simple. Plus, I'm going to boast here, but we have excellent customer service. And so we try to get back to people the same day. If it's not 24 hours, it's the same day. And I think being able to continue that is great. I mean, we had a little hiccup, I think, with our proctoring service kind of earlier with the pandemic in the US, but, with communicating with ANSI, we were able to resolve that and do some internal proctoring to, make it so people can still test. And the thing that I love too is that we have no delays. We have no delays in application and, the enrollment application process. I'm hearing that some people have finished coursework for other credentialing boards and they can't test for 3 months. There's like a waiting list. And, here we can get somebody certified as early as, a week, 2 weeks, because our exams are available all the time. And I think too, with the help of our coursework providers and CE providers, they're giving people the knowledge that they need. And like I mentioned, certificates in Africa, there's like an 80% passing rate. I think we need to make our tests a little harder, but it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And so I would just say, become a coursework provider. If you're already a behavior analyst, you can prepare your own staff to take these exams. And like we mentioned before, we have a cost adjustment. So it's not going to, and our exams, our certificates, they're all good for 2 years. It's a 2-year renewal. You only need CEUs to maintain your certifications. So QABA's main goal is the standardization of ABA globally. We do not want ABA standards to fall. And so with the help of our partners throughout the world, we're able to do this. And I think it's wonderful because, you know, like Dr. Ed mentioned, there are people who are doing what they think is ABA and it's not. So the more that we can educate people, the more outreach we can do, I think it's going to be wonderful and we're going to be able to help more people. So, you know, if anybody has questions, I'm happy to help.
Yeah, I really cannot tell you how grateful I am that you have spent this time with me today. You have enlightened me in the process, and I am really thankful. It really is just a reminder that we have a lot of work to do, and I am asking myself, even as I sit here, what can I contribute? Because one of the things that I think about is that we don't just meet by accident. Very often it is because we are supposed to do something. And so that's the way that I take this today. And I am going to continue to have conversations with you. Ms. Benincosa, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes,
This has
Dr.
been
Ed.
wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. The pleasure really is mine. I'm grateful. Dr. Ed, thank you very much. Mrs. Asikhia and Mr. Fatuase. I
Well,
know, yes. So thank you all for being here. Have a very happy new year, and I hope that you continue to do great work. And I also hope that this is not the last time that we'll hang out. So I look forward.
Hopefully in person someday.
Yes, I will look forward to that. I hope that happens, and that the COVID-19 actually goes away, and you get to visit Nigeria as well, so that you can be received and thanked to your face for all of the great support that you've given to people
And
there.
I can thank everybody.
Yes, and
Please find people here.
thank you. And you know that because I actually was born in Nigeria and raised there, and I know what the Nigerians are very alike, and I tell people that Nigerians are just as warm as their weather, and you'll get to experience that when you go there.
I
So,
love that. I love that. I've already felt it
Correct.
and I haven't even visited yet.
yeah, so, thanks a lot.